we start. We are absolutely in time, only with a few minutes late. And I would like to invite Mr. Dr. Pedicini to open the ceremony.
Okay, sorry for delay. I apologize with you because there was a lot of traffic today in the morning in Brussels, and I was blocked for more than 1 hour in the tunnel. So I apologize again. So okay, I can speak in Italian. Okay. Allora, grazie a
Thank you very much for coming today. I'd like to apologize once again for the delay. For the people who have been here, they've already explained how this... I'd like to just apologize once again. I'd like to welcome you to this event. I'm very happy to be able to welcome you here today on medical travel. This is an issue that we feel very deeply about. It's an issue that really deals with patients' rights. It's something that I'm close to also as in the job I had before I was an MEP. I'm convinced that the current implementation of the Directive on Patients' Rights in Cross-Border Healthcare is currently being debated in the European Parliament and in the Commission. But we're showing that we're still quite a long way from the full implementation of patients' rights to receive treatment in other member states. The Commission's report on the status of the implementation of this directive also shows that many member states are not fully involving patients' associations in this process. In my opinion, the most serious lack here is the lack of clear, transparent information for national contact points. Today, it's still not clear if and when costs for healthcare treatment will be reimbursed when this was received in a different member state. And there are also serious lacunae regarding access to prescribed medicines. In some countries, such as in Italy, the national contact point has still not been activated for citizens. There's no website, there's no telephone, or an email address for European and Italian citizens. The Italian Health Ministry has also not involved patients' organizations in the creation of these contact points, as was specified in the directive. We have raised this issue and we hope that it will be resolved very soon. The directive also entails the creation of European reference networks in order to have a better efficiency and better transparency between the different healthcare systems, and also to strengthen the scientific development and technological development. Member states should have told the Commission, they should have given them the list of their excellence centres in their countries in order to create this kind of a network. Nonetheless, many member states have still not done this. This is despite the importance of this in the directive. This is to create synergies on medical research at a European level. These aspects really need to be dealt with a certain urgency if we are to guarantee patients' rights to cross-border healthcare. Just last week, in the Environment, Health and Food Security Committee, where I'm a member and the coordinator for the EFDD, we had an exchange of views with the European Commission. Here about the lacking implementation of this directive. Last May, the European Parliament adopted a report in my name about patient security and the fight against antimicrobial resistance. And here we stressed the value of citizens' initiatives such as the European Patients' Rights Day. Events such as these are necessary in order to increase awareness for patients' rights and allowing them to participate in an active way and an informed way about their healthcare. From our opinion, it's clear that patients' associations play a fundamental role in this process. They need to be involved in all of these decisions regarding healthcare policy. I'd also like to remind you that the right to healthcare is one of the most important rights mentioned in the European Charter of Fundamental Rights. Nonetheless, even in our Europe today, and particularly in countries with low and medium incomes, the cost of medicines can be up to 80 times the international reference price. In these countries, therefore, there is very low availability in the public sector of these medicines, whereas in the private sector they are available but cost a lot more. This means it makes them inaccessible to huge chunks of the population. We therefore have a problem of access to medicines, but we above all have a problem of excess of medicines. this concentration of industrial production of medicines is all in the hands of very few pharmaceutical companies. We support the free market of generic and biosimilar medicines, which are much more sustainable and cheaper than the private ones. I'd also like to refer here to one of my pet topics, which is the creation of a great European public pharmaceutical company. This would allow for the development of medicines in all sectors that are less economically interesting for private pharmaceutical companies, such as issues regarding antimicrobial resistance or Ebola vaccines, and so on. I'd like to give the floor now to the other speakers, and thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you very much. And now I would like to invite Mr. Borrelli.
Thank you very much. Me too, I will speak in Italian. Buongiorno e benvenuto.
Good morning. Welcome. I think, well, it's becoming a regular practice for us to meet in the European Parliament to discuss issues of healthcare. And so I'd like to thank Dr. Costigliola and the Active Citizens Network for their organisational work. Now, I need to apologise to you in advance. Usually I'm here right to the end of these meetings because I find them extremely interesting, but alas, my role as co-president of the parliamentary group will mean that I have to leave at 10:30 for the meeting of the Conference of Presidents, alas. Now, I see on the agenda that we have people who are far more expert than I am who will be dealing with the issues that are going to be discussed today, so I'm only really here to say hello, I think. I mean, I just want to add what we're doing as the European Parliament Interest Group on European Patients' Rights and Cross-Border Healthcare so that you can be aware of what's going on in the European Parliament on these kinds of issues. And let me just remind you that you can count on us in your work. As Dr. Costigliola said, a few months ago we launched this interest group, and there are now over 20 members of the European Parliament involved, including Mr. Pedicini, who's sitting here next to me. And we have a pretty detailed roadmap of activities. The next activity will take place on the 17th of April. It will deal with pain when in the context of cross-border healthcare and patients' rights. So you can see that we are available and we are keen to continue discussing these issues. Now, as a co-founder of the interest group, I do want to just make a couple of comments. So the issue of cross-border healthcare is closely linked to a vision of Europe which is currently under threat. It's no longer perhaps being seen as a space where people can move freely. There are various reasons for that, perhaps also because of structural issues. It seems that people are looking at things in a more national context, starting from the external borders, internal borders, and people are now taking a more national viewpoint when it comes to access to healthcare in member states. Our concern is that demographic pressures and increasingly nationalistic views, European policies may well move away from a non-discriminatory offer in terms of healthcare, and the offer may well be limited. So in that context, our monitoring and awareness raising work within the interest group, I think, means that we can make a significant contribution. So I'd like to thank you for the invitation. Thank you, Mr. Pedicini, for inviting me, and congratulations for taking today's initiative, and I hope you have a fruitful day's work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and it's always a pleasure to be here, and we have your support. Thank you. And now I would like to invite Mrs. Tapardel. She is the co-chair of the intergroup. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. First of all, I want to thank you for your invitation. I am really honored to be here today. among so many distinguished speakers and guests. It's true, I am the co-chair of the Intergroup for European Tourist Development and Cultural Heritage. And I have to tell you that since the foundation of this intergroup, which gathers more than 140 MEPs, we have made significant progress in bringing tourism in the upper top priorities of the European institutions. This is why I deeply appreciate the complexity of this conference, and it's true, and the real interest that you show in European health and medical tourism. As many of you in the room already know, at the end of January, I organized a similar roundtable together with the European Spa Association, focused on the European health tourism, but more on the wellness aspects and less on medical services. So we suggestively named our conference Discover the Fountain of Youth. Some of the conclusions we have gathered regard the health tourism and the spa tourism is that an explosive, we observed explosive rise in the number of tourists that actively research their destination according to health and wellness opportunities. I think Europe has a steady rise in the number of health and wellness services in the last years, which is very important. Balneal resort, health spas, thermal water resorts are opening each month in mineral-rich places in Europe, such as Romania, Hungary, Austria, or Germany, and many others. Another major objective that the health tourism industry has is to capitalize further on the market potential, which is huge. Around 10 million people travel each year in order to receive treatments of sort in other countries or in the same country, but traveling big distances. Of course, each and every discussion comes down to the funding and the resources that we needed. The representative of health tourism in Europe demand a more focused approach from a European point of view on the development of this niche. The good news is that also the European Commission understands Europe's great potential in building up the health and medical tourism and will keep funding its development. Regarding the medical tourism, I think the cross-border treatments are split into two or three different parts. We have the emergency treatments in the EU. So, for example, the lack of medical technology in one country can bring victims of accidents into trans-border hospitals where the know-how and expertise exist. I will not count these cases as being medical tourism. The second is that we have a great number of Europeans, but not only, that travel specifically to have medical work done. For example, be it a plastic surgery, a dental work, the sole driver of these people is a financial argument. For example, Romania has a great number of tourists that take advantage of low prices in dental works, as opposite to the same services they get in their home country at much higher rates. To a bigger degree, this applies also to the United States citizens. I recently read in some papers that most medical procedures, ranging from dental work to heart surgery, may cost up to 10 times more in the United States than in some parts of Europe. And thirdly, we can include the balneotherapy and other medical spa services in the greater field of medical tourism. I think this is where we find the most potential for growth. In order to better explain this, I take the opportunity to present an example of success of my country, Romania. This example, it refers to the Balneo Sanatorium in Techirghiol, a small town very near to the Black Sea coast, which has a tradition of more than 100 years in treating illness with the utmost efficiency, using natural mud treatments from the nearby salty lake with the same name. Since 1899, so a very long time, the sanatorium has been working and evolving without interruption. It has reached a level of reputation that brings tourists from all over the world to seek its treatments, to the point that there is hardly any room left in the sanatorium around the year. This teaches us that seasonality is not a consequence when we're talking about medical tourism. So if we manage very well the medical tourism, we can talk about seasonality, which is a problem that usually affects, in general, the tourism sector. Having a general mild bioclimate, the sanatorium, the spas, the balneoclimateric wellness, they can bring patients and tourists all year around, which is very important. At the same time, the Tekirdağ Sanatorium has amazed a number of researchers to follow up on the scientific discoveries of the healing potential in sapropelic mud and salty water. I think, which is very important, the investment in research and development technology shed new light on the properties of the mud that people in Tekirdağ have used for literally thousands of years. This brings us to why the scientific community in Romania will organize this year the 41 World Congress of International Society of Medical Hydrology and Climatology. And my stagiaire, I think, already presented you some papers regarding the 41 World Congress of International Society of Medical Hydrology and Climatology. Because it's very important, and I think it's also an opportunity for the person that are interested in medical health to attend to this Congress if they have the opportunity and the time. So various scientific papers from 1800s emphasize that Romania has 30% of the Europe's thermal water supplies and other natural therapeutic factors. So we have to understand, in the end, I give you the example of Romania, but it's just an example because being in my country is the examples that I already know very well. But I think that we all have to understand the true potential of medical tourism in Europe. And I hold to the highest regard the quality of this debate because I look on the agenda and I know that this debate has a very high standard and quality. I only heard only 2 presentations until now, and unfortunately I can't stay more because I have another event. But for sure, my assistant will give me the presentation, and I think that we need a new framework and a new legislation that can encourage patient mobility in the EU. As a conclusion, I think this is very important, and I think that we here in the European Parliament, the MEPs, we have the duty to flexibilize the legislation that can encourage the mobility in the European Union. So whether we see this from a business point of view or whether we notice that social aspects of medical travel, one true objective arise, encouraging Europeans and also extra-Europeans to visit and learn about the healing potential of other countries in the European Union. So in the end, as a conclusion, it will be something that is not closely related to the debate, but me, with my colleagues of the intergroup, we are trying that to obtain the nomination for 2018 to be the European Year for Tourist Development and Cultural Heritage. And I think this is a big opportunity for everybody that is involved in the tourism industry and field to give the support. The procedure is that the European Commission has to come with a proposal and then to obtain the endorsement of the European Parliament and the European Council. So I invite you that here in the European Parliament to show the interest and the support of nominating this European Year for Tourism, and also to discuss in your member states with the Minister of Tourism, with the representatives from the public area in tourism, to give the support for nominating this year, the 2018, as being the European Year for Tourism. Also because in 2017, the World Tourism Organization will have an International Year for Tourism and Sustainable Development, and I think it will be a very good continuation that in 2018 we'll have also a European Year. So thank you very much for the opportunity of speaking at this debate, and I think that at the end, many useful conclusions will be raised. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and I think we are absolutely on the same direction. We need to create something more important at European level. Thank you for your participation. And I think we go on with our program. Next one, please. Okay, you have the idea. Just let me start with thanks Dr. Pedicini, Dr. Borrelli, Mrs. Tapardel, the EFDD group, and also the European Patient Rights Cross-Border Health Group. Next one, and I would like to thanks all the participants, because now it's possible. At the end, it's very difficult to say thank you to everybody. With the Cittadinanza Attiva, CIRM from Rome, European Confederation of Care Home Organization, Salute e Benessere, and Fondo Assistenza e Benessere. Okay, and now let me go on with this presentation. I would like to stress it's not exhaustive presentation, is just the idea, and this is the starting point in order to present more and to have more opportunity to discuss, to create a really concrete base for European strong structure. Just a few words of the EMA, if the people don't know us, it's a non-profit association and it's not a trade union, and it's aimed to all doctors now confronted with a new concept in healthcare in Europe. The purpose of this meeting is very simple and very clear. It's to build the basis of a strong European network in the field of medical travel and fix the fundamental criteria to accredit center, facilitate, and the people. This is very important. And please, I would like really all of you to come with an open mind and with the opinion. Nothing is absolutely fixed, but we would like to create something together. Until now, we talk in terms of the medical tourism, but let me say, I prefer to change, because the medical and tourism is really the contradiction. This word will start in the States, where they consider the commercial things more important. For us, it's more important the person. And this is the reason I prefer to talk in terms of the medical travel. And the idea of the medical travel is accepted in different international congress. There is the journal of the medical travel, because it's more clear and more direct things. Next one. The medical travel is something now in constant growth, and the market is more and more important, also economically. We are more than 2 billion of US dollars. This is the reason we need to pay attention to this aspect. The person travel for the medical reason in general normally spend 5-10 times more than the regular traveler. This is one aspect I would like you to keep in mind. Next one, please. And the medical travel, in my idea, but I share this idea with the other colleagues, include the medical needs, the rehabilitation center, the medicalized spa, the spa, and of course the care home organization. Is these 5 aspects are really the fundamental of the concept of the medical travel in general. First one, medical needs. I mean, is what I call the primary purpose to travel. In this case, is exactly we go in another place when we don't have locally the resources. This is one aspect. Is really we try to find the tailored therapy. This is a medical needs. Go ahead. We have the rehabilitation center. Also in this case, we need to have the better quality and the technological advancement with the quicker access, affordable health care. Before to go, just a moment, the rehabilitation center is now more and more important. In 20, 30, 40 years ago, the people victim of the car accident or the big problems, they remain at home with the very simple therapy. Today, we have the exoskeleton, we have the possibility really to give the life to the person, normally not this one. It's important, a very important aspect to have the rehabilitation center. And we are in this first category called for the medical in general. Next one. The third legs of our table is the medicalized spa. Of course, the medicalized spa is not for the sick people, it's for the healthy patients. The healthy patients, they want to reach the better shape, they want to reach something. And we have the medicalized spa with the preventive programs, with the medical services, and so on. But also in this case, we need to have the clear criteria, what they do, and not like in some centers, they make the blood test with some specific tests and so on. This is another aspect, the medicalized spa. Next one, and of course, why we go in this center? Because the characteristics include the cosmetic medicine, complementary medicine, non-invasive doctor care, sometimes the rehabilitation, anti-aging care, checkup, etc., etc. But it's important to know. The other aspect is the spa. And everybody have these dreams to spend the time in the spa. And this is also for healthy patients. This is very important. But also for the spa must be adapted to the needs of the person. Some person with the high blood pressure has no indication for some spa, and so on. We need always this previous medical evaluation. And in Europe, we have a lot of these things. Also, we have another aspect, and it's not the minor one, is the care home organization. You know very well, now our life is longer, and we need to have the center for a healthy aging person. This is important. It's important to have, to offer to the aging population the possibilities to be accepted, to be treated, and to have the very good and enjoy life. Next one, this is important. Check these slides. In the last 50 years, our life expectancy comes from the 40 to the 80 years. I mean, it's the double. It's absolutely the double. And until when we are really active and capable to produce, and since when we need to be helped. Consider the person remain alone. The person needs to be to receive all daily care. This is important to have this aspect in our mind. Okay. The reality is also important because the patients, the aging population, are the consumer and they spend. They are ready to spend, but they want the services. We have in Brussels some home where the monthly rate is 7,000 euros per month. It's not for everybody, I agree, but these persons are happy to spend this money because they receive the service. They have the nice apartment, they have services, they have the restaurant, they have the medical treatment and so on. Well, the aging population is also the financial and economical resources. Next one. Okay, and in Europe, when I talk to Europe, next, in Europe, we have all these resources. We have a lot of this center of excellence in terms of the medicine, in terms of the spa, in terms of the care and so on. We need to use this one, and we need to support this aspect. We don't need the invasion from outside. We need to recognize what we have in Europe. Next one. And now, who is interested? Because this is the question. Who is our target? Certainly the patients is important. It's the first line. The healthcare providers, the medical travel facilitators, and I mean the university, we come back on this, the travel agent, and also the governments, organizations, regions, and the wellness hospitalities, and of course insurance professionals. This is really the aspect, and in all these aspects we need the investors, because we need to create this clear network to put together. Let me start quickly this one. All this aspect is with a great economical impact. We need to consider this aspect, the great economical impact. Economical and social dimension of the health we have to consider, because we have in one hand the efficiency and the other one is the equity. When we try to have the top of the efficiency and the equity, of course, is a theoretical point, but in order to achieve this theoretical point, we have to consider the cost. And everything is played on this aspect, in this balance between efficiency, equity, and the cost. The patient's needs comes absolutely first, and this is for us very important. The patient is changed. Generally, the patients are more informed and more motivated. I have my practice every day, and I have every day the patients comes, hey, doctor, I have this one, because I check it in internet, and probably sometimes he comes with a diagnostic idea and with something. Patients are more and more demanding in terms of the medical performance. They want to save time, they want to reduce the medical error, and the patients want higher safety. They are no more ready to take the risk. Well, in this case, is excellent medical practice, medical service with high quality care and technological innovation. Next one. The second aspect is the healthcare provider. Is healthcare provider means the hospital, the big hospital, the private clinic, yes, and also the doctors, because we need to fix clearly the quality, and everybody is interested in offering the best services. We have the government, the organization, the region. The government, of course, are interested not only to protect the local resources, but to promote the local resources. And sometimes the local resources are at the regional level. This is the reason I invite, and I would like to involve more and more the region, because only the region knows exactly what they have and what is the possibility to optimize these resources. If you have the fantastic center, but you don't have the connection, if you don't have the road, if you don't have the train, if you don't have nothing, it's very difficult to promote. This is one reason I insist on the regions. Next one, of course, is the medical travel facilitator and university. This is the different aspect. We need the specialist. We need the person educated. We need the person trained. Right now, who covers this aspect of the indication? You go to somebody, oh yes, I know there is the center in this town, on the Notre town, but the person are not prepared. And it's really very shame. In Europe, we have to wait. The American organization comes to prepare the special diploma for the medical tourist facilitator. The American comes in Europe to prepare our own professionists. I'm so sorry, it's not acceptable for me, and this is the idea I would like to push all of you to consider this one. And also, unfortunately, we don't have the universities here representative, but we try to inform and we try to involve more the university. Other aspect is the travel agent. Of course, when you go in some place, you need to be sure. You need to have the good connection. You need to have the good assistance. Sometimes the people need the special assistance. They need to have the specialized travel agent. And also in this case, the travel agent must be trained and must be prepared. Another one is wellness hospitality, and we have the chance to have with us the representative of the spa in Europe. Is essential in this case to know which kind of services are offered, and it's also important to know what is the treatment proposed. Next one, insurance. It's clear. When the people move in another place, they want to be sure also are covered. The cost is important, and sometimes we need also the clear cost strategy. Not always the cost is very transparent in some place. We have the concurrence from the Thailand, from India, from the China, from the Turkey, from the other part. But not always the cost is clear. We need to insist about this cost. And in Europe, go ahead, the next one, we need also the investors. We need the group capable to invest in the health services, because only if we have this person, they trust us, it's not possible to receive back the money in 6 months or in 1 year. We need the middle and long-term investors. But why the people go abroad? First of all, is for medical care at affordable cost. Is the money. Second one is because we need the tailored therapy. We have some person with the special things, they need the specialist. And not always and not everywhere we have all the specialists in all countries. If you need the special cardiac surgery, it's not sure you have always all centers specialized. This is the reason we go abroad. Until 10 years ago, it was simple to go to the States, and it was really not really very acceptable for us, this collect to pay the travel, the family to go abroad for operation. Now we have in Europe all these things. And of course, why the people go abroad? Also for the pleasure, for the to reach the different health services. The patient's mobility is absolutely the very old practice. Generally, the patient sick prefer to be treated as close at home as possible, but well-informed patients prefer to go abroad and to know what is the best center for me. Just 2 days ago, I received a mail, give me who is the best surgeon in UK and so on. This is important. And for this reason, the patients are ready to move from the local, regional, national, and international level. The reason to travel for medical treatment is very simple: healthcare quality, accreditation, cross-cultural aspect, service and logistic, data safety security, facilitators, patient safety, medical and business ethic, legal aspect, and healthcare cost. Consider this one. This is really the list of the consideration for us. Go ahead. And we have all these things in Europe. We have to consider Europe. Europe covers more than 4 million square kilometers, and this entity represents the only one with the political and economical area with the legal free circulation of goods, service, capital, and persons, and also has 503 million of inhabitants. And we have more or less 10,000 hospitals, we have 900 medical schools, and finally we have 3 million of physicians. I am sure we are capable to cover all needs. And also, we have the possibility to move. We are authorized to move from one member state to the another one. Next one, and this is important. The law court deliberated on the right of the patients to receive medical care in another member state different from the one where he has his residence. But the free circulation requires an harmonized healthcare system. How we are informed about the center? What is our source of information? The media, internet, television, radio, newspaper, magazine. Is enough? I don't think so. Next one, we need to fix some criteria for health travel. We need to be sure. We need to accredit the center. We need to give the certification to the center. And we have the possibility to discuss. And the main challenge of the medical health travel market is really one, is the analysis of the competence, is structuring the travel market, integration of medical travel with service and specialists, creation of common database for better coordination programs with the travel offers, and develop the new project and the standard for social responsibility in front of our patient and the natural resources. This is the reason we need the support of the Commission to create, to offer to us the financial support in order to create these structures. What can we do to improve the international competitiveness of the center of excellence we already have in Europe? And our proposition is this one, to create an European atlas of the resources, where we invite everybody to participate, to give the idea what we do, what we are. Next one, and also the future trends. We need the tools to measure the competence, because it's not simple. We need these tools. How measure the competence? We have a lot of charlatans published in internet, come to me and I treat the hepatitis C with only with something. No, it's not true. We need to measure the competence. We need to have some feedback. We need the objective standards. We need to work in. And especially at the end, we need a labeling of the quality. This is for us the idea. This is my introduction. Next one. And I would like to give you the take-home message. The medical travel is a reality, constant expanding. Europe has a legislative framework for a cross-border healthcare treatment. Europe has high specialized structure able to meet domestic and international demand. And we have to identify, select, support, and promote this structure, because it's clear the power is access to information. Finally, we must fund and support our European identity, because we are European, we have the resources, and we have to go on. And let me finish with this one. No one can motivate you except yourself. If you are motivated, we go on and we work together and we have the possibility to go on. I would like really to thank you. I try to be on time for leave the floor to the next speaker. Thank you very much. And now I would like to invite Mr. Pisco from DG GROW Unit Public Interest Services. Please.
Thank you very much for floor. My name is Jarek Pytka. I work in the DG GROW, the unit Public Interest Services. In this unit, we deal with certain aspects of health services. As an introduction, I would like to point out to a distinction between healthcare services provided by healthcare professionals, as defined by the Directive 2005/36 on the professional qualifications. This directive actually covers so-called regulated professions, doctors, nurses, pharmacists, and hospitals, and so on. Versus healthcare services provided by other service providers. I mean here activities designed to enhance wellness or to provide relaxation, like sports, fitness, fitness club. This distinction is important from the point of view of internal market, because actually the first group is excluded from the application of the Services Directive. Services Directive is the most developed and actually complex legal act when it comes to services sector in the internal market. And as you see, for the very big, very large number of professions, medical professions, it is not applicable. This also means that member states have very important and pronounced role in the regulation of the healthcare services, and they are not really limited by the Services Directive. Everywhere where the Services Directive is applicable, actually the role of member states is a little bit more actually taken back. Thank you very much. This fact that we actually have so big role of member states, it also means that we don't have really a common healthcare policy in Europe, but it doesn't mean that we don't have a legal framework for healthcare services. This legal framework I will try to actually put in a more simplified way. It consists of course, treaty provisions and a few secondary acts of the EU law. I start with Article 168 of the Treaty of Functioning of the EU. In paragraph 7, this provision is saying member states are responsible for the definition of their health policy and for the organization and delivery of health services and medical care. This basically actually is an expression of the subsidiarity on the European level. Member states are actually first to regulate. Only when they are not capable to solve certain problems, then EU law can be then actually used. We have also internal market freedoms, freedom to provide services and freedom of establishment, and they would be applicable to all these aspects which are not covered by Services Directive. So, for example, the regulated professions are fully covered by the internal market freedoms, which means actually that member states, of course, although they have very large room of maneuver in this with regard to the health services, they need to, of course, take into consideration the internal market freedoms. Apart from that, we also have secondary law and harmonization acts like Professional Qualification Directive, which I already mentioned. This directive is regulating actually the conditions under which member states have to actually accept diploma and professional experience acquired by individuals in other member states. We also have, which is definitely very well known to you, Patients' Rights Directive, which is a codification of core European case law of the European Court of Justice. And actually this regulates, of course, access to health in the EU, in other member states, including reimbursements. So in my presentation, I will be focusing on actually freedom to provide services and freedom of establishment, mostly on freedom of establishment in the area of health services. The fact that medical services are actually part of the internal market freedom is actually thanks to rulings of the court, European Court of Justice, who actually in a few rulings has stated that medical services are actually economic activities provided for remuneration, and as such should be considered as services within the meaning of the treaty. It means that, of course, freedom to provide services and the freedom of establishment are applicable to these services. At the same time, Court of Justice of the EU has also confirmed the great role of member states to determine the level of protection which they wish to afford to public health, and also has granted a discretion to member states to regulate, of course, healthcare services. However, this discretion is not unlimited, and member states must comply with union law, which means that they cannot actually introduce restrictions which are unjustified. When it comes to restrictions, I would like to, maybe next slide please, I would like to actually focus on the restrictions with regard to establishment. We have, for example, bans on operating more than one entity. This is when, for example, one optician wants to open another optician shop in a given member state. We have ownership rules for clinics, for pharmacies, but also for laboratories. Very typical is, for example, that in many member states, pharmacies can be owned only by pharmacists. We have limits on the choice of legal form for clinics and pharmacies, but also on other entities. We have prohibitions on the enrollment in a professional register of any doctor or, for example, dental surgeon who is still enrolled and registered in another EU member state. This is not only typical for health area, but also quite general restriction when it comes to establishment legislation. So that one is actually always illegal. Requirements to obtain an authorization to set up a private outpatient clinic for dental medicine, that one and the first one, actually I will cover a little bit more in detail in my next slides. So we have actually these restrictions. Member states can introduce restrictions, but of course they need to pay attention that these restrictions are justified. So there are certain limits for member states' action. If member states want to introduce restrictions, they should be applied. This is actually a common set of rules which has been developed by the Court of Justice of the European Union. They should be applied in first non-discriminatory manner, which means they should be applicable equally to nationals and to foreigners. They should be justified by requirements in the general interest, like protection of public health. This is the most typical case. They should be suitable for securing the attainment of the objective which they pursue, and they should not go beyond what is necessary in order to attain this objective. So, in other words, they should be proportionate. These measures should be proportionate. Quite recently, the court has also added another layer of a test. We can call it consistency test. These measures should also reflect a concern to attain that objective in a consistent and systematic manner. To put it in different words, the court wants that these measures are not contradictory. If member states decide to regulate certain area of law in a specific way, they should be consistent, they should not contradict themselves and regulate a similar area in a completely different way. Maybe I will now give you some examples of restrictions which were not justified. I mentioned already this optician who wants to open a second shop. In Greece, this was actually forbidden by law. This prohibition has been contested, and the court found that the prohibition was not justified because less restrictive measures were actually viable and could equally achieve the objective of protecting public health. This less restrictive measure was actually the presence of qualified salaried opticians in each optician's shop. This was actually sufficient for the court to say that the measure were not proportionate. Another example actually of unjustified national measures is a case quite famous. In Austria, setting up outpatient clinics was actually subject to issue of prior authorization. This has been denied to a German company who wanted to open such a clinic in Austria. And the decision has been also justified or substantiated by the fact that there was no really need to open such a institution. The authorities also justified the decision, the rejection, by objective of maintaining a balanced, high-quality medical service open to all, and also preventing the risk of serious harm to the financial balance of the social security systems. However, the court actually found this justification not consistent. Next slide, please. Because this prior authorization was actually required for new independent outpatient clinics, but not for new group practices. And in the court's view, these group practices actually were quite comparable and were liable to affect in equivalent manner the attainment of the objectives pursued. So the court actually noted here that there was kind of contradictory regulatory actually action on part of the Austrian authorities. Next one, please. Not only we have unjustified national measures, we also have measures which can be justified in light of the treaty provision, the fundamental freedoms. In Germany, there is a rule according to which only pharmacies may own and operate a pharmacy. Actually, such a rule is in force not only in Germany, in some other member states we can find similar rules. This has been contested, and the court actually found that such a rule is justified by the overriding reasons in the general interest, namely the objective of protecting public health and the objective of a reliable and high quality supply of medicinal products. The court actually, for what was important for the court was actually the very particular nature of medicinal products. If they are consumed unnecessarily or incorrectly, they can cause serious harm to health, and because of that, they can also cause high cost to the social security systems. Because of that, it was important that the person who was distributing the medicines has certain qualities, actually. And the court said actually the member states would be entitled to require that medicinal products be supplied by pharmacists enjoying professional independence from, for example, the need to make profit. Of course, next slide, please. Of course, the pharmacists also need to make profit. This is not that they are not really earning money from actually providing their services, but the court actually said that this interest of the pharmacists to make profit is actually tempered by his training, by his professional experience, by the responsibility which the pharmacist owes, given that any breach of the rules of law or professional conduct would undermine actually not only the value of the investment, but also his own professional existence. So for the court was actually very important actually, and actually allowed member states even to introduce a rule where the pharmacists could be 100%. The pharmacists could be 100% owned by pharmacists. In some member states, this is not the case. Sometimes it's even possible that pharmacies are owned by wholesalers, or even it's not completely out of question that the producers of medicinal products could be also involved in managing pharmacies. So, as you see, in Germany, this conflict of interest was actually solved in such a way, which was also which was found actually justifiable by the court. Of course, it doesn't mean that everywhere such a rule would be accepted. It all depends, of course, how the law is drafted, how the proportionality principle is here actually executed. Maybe last one example I will give you. Next slide, please. Would be the ban on advertisement of medical services in Ireland. This is quite a famous case because also this case actually started the case law of the court concerning the medical and healthcare services, and included them under the application of the fundamental freedoms. In Ireland, as you know, there is a ban on abortion services, but not only on the abortion services, but also on information about services, abortion services available in other EU member states. A student group actually was providing such an information about abortion services available in London. This was contested by some interest groups in Ireland, and the court has actually said that this was okay, because the court didn't see any economic link between the services provided by the clinics and the action of the union of the students group. At the same time, the court said that the termination of pregnancy could constitute a service, so a medical medical activity provided for remuneration was actually, in the eyes of the court, a service, and therefore the fundamental freedoms were applicable here. But because of this missing economic link, the case was decided in favor of Ireland. Had the students been paid, or had the clinics actually been advertising the service themselves, I think the case may have been decided differently. I think this would be all which I wanted to squeeze in this actually quite brief presentation. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, and believe me, it's always very complicated to know how you move in Europe with different legislations, and sometimes the patients are not completely informed and not exist one central point to distribute the information. And it's the big problem, especially for the people when they move around, they need the medical services, and after are refused without explication, without something, and there is no possibility to recourse. And now we have the pleasure to introduce our last speaker of this first part in order to talk about the Martin Rutherford from DG Santé and cross-border healthcare and health. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I will go a little more into detail on the Patient Rights Directive that was introduced by Mr. Putko, and I will say something about the possibilities it gives, but also I'm afraid the limitations it gives for today's theme. The directive marked a change in the European Union's involvement in healthcare policy, as it is like Putko referred, healthcare is under the subsidiarity principle, and this is of course not changed by the directive, but it's the first legislation that goes into the patient's rights on cross-border care, except for the regulations which have been in place since the 1970s, focusing on the workers' mobility and that they should have access to care when moving around in Europe. The legal basis for the directive is the treaty, as mentioned by Mr. Putko, Article 168, which says that the health care is a subsidiarity, that it's the member states has the prerogative, but that it can be regulated as long as it does not interfere with member states' rights. And then Article 114, that is also, so it's sort of dual legal basis from the treaties. So both are referred to in the directive. Article 114 on this for freedoms. It's based on the European Court of Justice, and it was meant to clarify and codify the rulings and what was the legal situations after these rulings that came during the 1990s and the early 2000s. But the rulings are, since they are the basis of the directive, they are also still relevant when interpreting the directive. Regarding the regulations, the directive says that the regulations 883/2004 and the implementing regulation is the first choice. So if the regulations are applicable, then these should be used unless the patient requires otherwise. And in addition to these, to sort of clarify the court's position and what was the grounds after the rulings, it was considered in the negotiations on the directive that to put down some basic rights for the patients in order to make this work. So there was patients were given rights in the directive to have access to the journal, to the medical journal, and member states were obliged to have a system of liability for healthcare providers. And also there are rules on transparency that patients should be able to know what their rights are. This obliges member states to have information on this. And also an information on their cross-border rights. So the directive sets up the national contact points and their obligations to give information to the patients. There are also rules on cooperation and collaboration, but these are setting out the framework to continue the work on this, more than giving specific demands on the member states on how to do things. There's also the rules on setting up the European reference networks and on collaboration on e-health and health technology assessment. So going into the directive on limitations and possibilities for medical travel. As I said, the regulations have been in place since the 1970s. They only give rights to access public providers or healthcare that is part of the public healthcare. This can also be private providers, but then they have to have an agreement with the national health insurance. So the patient has the right as if he was citizen of the member states of treatment. For planned care, the regulations only give right to planned care after request of a prior authorization. And this prior authorization in general is not given if the treatment is available in the home country without undue delay. The very practical for when it comes to travelers and tourism is of course the EHIC, but this the European Health Insurance Card, but this is not covering planned care. So if you go to a country to receive treatment, then you cannot use the European Health Insurance Card. This is only if you are already on a travel or in another member state and need healthcare because when you are there. So if you travel to receive healthcare, then it is not covered by the health insurance card. So this is on the regulation. So the change with the directive is that also private providers are covered. The patient can seek healthcare both in the public providers and the private providers, and receive reimbursement on arrival back home. But the problem or the difference is that patients must pay up front, unlike the regulations where the patient, if there is no co-payment in the member states of treatment, then the patient doesn't pay anything, even if he is not a citizen in this member state. But with the directive, he has to pay up front and then ask reimbursement on arrival back home. Then there is also in the directive a system with prior authorization can be implemented by the member states, and most member states have implemented this. And then member states can. There has to be special rules. There has to be special conditions in place to require prior authorization, and this is that it has to be necessary for planning needs, which is rather vague criteria. But also, it has to involve either overnight stay or highly specialized or cost-intensive care. So a limitation when for this medical travel is then when there is a requirement for prior authorization, and of course this will only be given if the treatment is part of the basket of benefits in the member states that can give the prior authorization. So for some of the types of treatments that have been mentioned here, most member states will not cover this as part of the basket of benefits. For example, well-being, spa, and things like this. And also there is usually experimental treatment is not covered by the member states. It's not in the basket of benefits, and then they are also allowed to not provide it abroad or cross-border. And then there's also the limit that it's only covered up to the cost that it would have incurred in the member states that is responsible for the cost. So this can also, of course, set limits to what is covered with a private provider. And this also raises, of course, issues in Europe about the big differences of cost of care, meaning that some poorer countries where generally healthcare is less cost intensive, they will have less opportunity to travel under the directive because they will have less financing to sort of bring with them to to access healthcare in another member states. And also, of course, most member states do not cover alternative treatments that are not scientifically documented as effective. So these are sort of the limits that are in the directive, but then we also, as the Commission has described in the report on the functioning of the directive from September last year, there's also limitations due to the implementation or lack, or the way the member states have implemented the directive. The Commission is working on the assessing of these implementing measures, but as stated in the report, and also as Pedicini described, for instance, information to patients has been very lacking as a general statement. And for instance, only 20% of the EU citizens feel that they are informed about their rights to travel and receive healthcare. And only 10% know of the, as of a year ago about, know of the national contact points existence. So even there's a discrepancy. Probably even less than 20% know of their rights. I think you can assume that if you don't know about the national contact point, then it's hard to know about your rights under the directive. What we have found also in this in our work so far is that several member states have a very extensive list of what they require prior authorization for, and as Mr. Pitko described, limitations has to be justified. These rules described by Pitko on limitations are also valid for the directive. And we are not sure that some of these extensive lists can be justified and as planning needs, which is the requirement under the directive. For instance, some member states say that all specialists treatment is requiring prior authorization, and then if you look into the requirements of the directive, you can at least question if this is correct. And then there are also member states that have very burdensome administrative procedures. For instance, you have to have a very special formula filled in by this and this person, and in order to get reimbursement, or you can have very long waiting time and procedure time to get your reimbursement, making it difficult financially for patients. And there's also the lack of transparency in some member states. It's very difficult for patients to know what is in the basket of benefits in their member state and what treatments is requiring prior authorization. The Commission, besides working on assessing the implementation, also have cooperation and collaboration with the national contact points and the member states authorities. And in December we had a meeting with the national contact points, and they want to collaborate on improving the information. So hopefully this will improve over the coming months and years. And of course, we also hope that our work on assessing the implementation will lead to, and we know it already has led to, better legislation and better implementation of the directive in member states. Moving on to the collaboration and more soft law rules in the directive. The European reference networks are are still in the process of being established. I don't know too many details of this, but there's going to be an independent assessment body that assesses the applicants to be a European reference or to be member of a European reference network. This is ongoing. I'm not sure exactly the dates, but it's in a early period of the work. A small comment to the criticism of that was mentioned earlier here. This is a voluntary exercise for the member states. Of course, it's for the European citizen and the European Union. It's good that all qualified and highly expertise healthcare providers apply, but the European Commission has no way of forcing member states to provide an application on behalf of these centers of expertise. And then there's also the health technology assessment, which is ongoing, trying to establish a common European framework for assessing health technology, which also would save the member states from a lot of work, but also would help to harmonize or coordinate the work in the EU and hopefully also give quicker access to the technology that is assessed as being effective and efficient. Access to safe care is a high priority for the European Commission in this work. And then there's also the e-health network, which is ongoing. Main focus in the first or ongoing now is to make standards, to make it possible to have a quick and easy exchange of patient summaries between member states electronically, making it more easy for both patients and healthcare providers across borders, and also for the electronic prescription, so that it makes it easier for patients to access pharmacy prescription pharmacological projects in any member states. On the collaboration cross-border, there we had attended a meeting, I think it was last week, with the Committee of Regions, and collaboration cross-border is, of course, can be useful in many areas, but I think the initiative has to come from the border areas themselves, where collaboration can be, where it's seen as useful, and then the Commission should help facilitate if such an initiative comes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was really interesting, but the problem is the directive is just the first step. We need the following step in order to offer the really better services. I suggest 2 minutes of the break in order to change the name, and we go on to the second section. Thank you very much to Mr. Pedicini for his presentation and for hosting our group. Aspetta che ti do i tuoi risultati. Okay. No, of course.
You're staying,
Yeah.
O tak, dzień dobry.
O, niestety nie mam ze sobą, ale miło mi po prostu przekonać.
Właśnie, bo zobaczyłam dopiero nazwisko i...
Tak, pani tutaj jest... Okej. To jest...
Mr. Rutherford,
O, bardzo miło.
you have a card?
Przepraszam, nie mam
I think I have one card.
Yeah,
To jest dyrekcja, która się zajmuje...
because I wouldn't like.
So, if you want, we start the second session. Please sit down. Dove De Santis era, sì. Okay, please. Dr. Alberto De Santis, European Network of Care Home, dalla European Confederation of Care Home Organization. Please, Dr. De Santis.
Buongiorno, grazie. Ringrazio il dottor Così.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having organized this meeting. And of course, thank you to Cittadinanza Attiva who are here to my right. We are working together, and we have done for some time, in order to give the possibility to elderly people to receive better treatment in the whole of Europe. As you will have guessed, this conference at this moment is very opportune, because the European Confederation of Care Home Organizations, which I am honored to be the president of, has already been working for about a year now about how to implement an age travel program. This is how we could. This would be the possibility of involving 4 countries: Portugal, Spain, Italy, and Greece. Of course, other countries such as the UK, France, and Germany are also involved, but these southern countries are prepared to receive and to welcome elderly people for long-term care. These are the 4 countries that offer a good climate and suitable places as well. I'd like to thank Ms. Tapadell, because she mentioned the importance of thermal waters, which is one of the great assets of this country and of Romania. But I'd also like to say that in Italy, the whole coast and the center of Italy is full of thermal water centers and spas with muds. For example, also in the Isle of Ischia, we're working together to welcome these elderly people in these places. It would also allow relatives to have a fantastic holiday in these places, these beautiful locations in these 4 countries that I mentioned. And they could combine both an excellent service and an economic one too. This is extremely important. This would allow these 4 countries, but also northern countries, to implement this travel hotel sector and much more. I think we're on the right road here. We've been speaking for some time about this sector, about this issue, and it could, in an innovative way, help to develop the European economy too. This is something that's currently lacking in Europe today. I'd like to stress it will be a very positive and important contribution both to the economy and to the employment at a time that is perhaps for Europe that is quite dark at the moment. We're seeing borders being closed because of immigration, and this is to the detriment of welfare. We want to work all together to avoid this. We want to show that we're ready, that we're mature and able to deal with this problem. We don't need to be afraid. of conflict, if you let me use this term, between European countries. We are united. We have a common goal, and we really need to develop this sector. We're ready to do this. Dr. Costigliola, we have this an agreement with Cittadinanza and him, and we're going to work together also with Mr. Borelli in order to develop this sector. I'm sure that we're going to be successful, we'll reach our targets, and we're going to give this significant boost and a better quality of life to elderly people. And in terms of long-term care, this is something that's important. We have expertise in these 4 countries in terms of healthcare, in terms of residential care, and this, in fact, we are second to none in this respect. I'd like to thank everybody for participating. I'd like to thank Dr. Costigliola and also the European Parliament for hosting us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. De Santis. The second title is Mrs. Bianca Ferraiolo, Cittadinanza Attiva, Active Citizenship Network at the service of the patients, sharing experience about cross-border healthcare. Please.
Thank you. First of all, thank you very much for giving me today the opportunity to touch on an issue that affects the daily life of many European citizens. As you all know, Cittadinanza Attiva is a non-profit organization founded in 1978, and its main objectives are the promotion of civic participation and the protection of citizens' rights. We work to encourage active participation of citizens in European policymaking. Cittadinanza Attiva has more than 30 years of experience in the protection of citizens' rights in the health sector. And in Italy, with more than 200 local points, the most of them inside the public hospitals, and 84 citizens' advisory centers, we provide for free guidance, information, and protection in the healthcare field. And each year, we collect an average of 25,000 among complaints and requests of information from patients and citizens. Active Citizenship Network is the European branch of Cittadinanza Attiva and is composed by a flexible network composed by more than 100 civic and patients associations from all around Europe. ACN is recognized by the European Commission and as a European stakeholder in the field of public health and care. And we promoted also the European Charter of Patients' Rights in 2002 and the European Patients' Rights Day that is celebrated every year since 2007 on the 18th April all over Europe. Last May, we took also the initiative to promote inside the European Parliament the interest group on European patients' rights and cross-border health care that currently has the support of 22 MEPs of different nationalities and political groups. We did it because the recognition of patients' rights across the European Union and their enforcement will become effective only with the cooperation and commitment of all the stakeholders in each European country, starting from the European institutions. European citizens travel abroad to get treatment or unexpectedly need it when they are already abroad. Believe me, these things happen all the time. And on a personal note, it happened to me lately. And I had the opportunity to test personally how the Belgian healthcare system works efficiently. Therefore, our commitment on cross-border healthcare has been constant over the years. And as I said, in Italy, we provide daily advice and assistance to citizens who travel abroad to get treatments, also in care of rare diseases. About our commitment at the European level, just to give you a few examples, we promoted a manifesto for the implementation of the European patients' rights to make an informed choice, with the endorsement of 31 organizations from 13 countries. We animated also public debates, established networks, and presented to both Italian and European institutions some reports with an update of the state of implementation of the directive in 12 European countries. About the Italian situation, data from 269 reports received by Italian citizens confirm us that there are serious difficulties to travel abroad to receive treatment. Most of them concern the need to obtain from local health services prior authorization to go abroad, and 36% are the complaints of delay in receiving this authorization. 27% concerns the lack of information to complete the entire process, which involves many steps, most of them unclear. For 33% of citizens, another problem is the denied authorization by the local health services. This is a very big problem for patients because they have to choose between giving up or paying by themselves. But for many of them, this solution is not viable because of the high costs. The last issue is the difficulty to obtain refunds for anticipated expenses, and these data also clarify that the economic obstacle is one of the most relevant problems. In some cases, the failure or delay in receiving a response becomes dysfunctional, confusing the citizens, being a limit to access therapies, and endangering their health. The major reasons why the Italian citizens go abroad to get treatment are to have surgery, innovative therapies, diagnostic, specialized consultation, and transplantation. And the main therapeutic areas are oncology, neurology, rare diseases, cardiology, and orthopedics. In Malta, as for the choice of countries in which respondents are willing to access treatment abroad, patients' expectations often compromise patients' medical needs, trust, and geographical proximity. The 89.1% will be willing to go to the UK despite the great geographical distance because of the common language, and the 59.7% will go to Italy because of the proximity with Malta. As we can see, the 97.4% of respondents indicated that they will base their decision on seeking health care in a foreign country on recommendation from the GPs, and this is a reassuring data, of course, but the 59.4% refers other patients' experiences. In terms of sources of information on treatment abroad, the results show that patients rely more on information sources managed by the ministry responsible for health, so specialists, GPs, and national contact points, rather than on information sources available on the internet or provided by family, friends, or media. And this is a reassuring data too, of course. Regarding patients' medical needs, data show that patients are most willing to consider cross-border care for cancer, rare diseases, and lung conditions. Dental problems were the only disease category for which a minority of respondents are willing to access treatment abroad. For all the other conditions, the majority of respondents stated that they agreed to access treatment abroad. In terms of numbers, in 2014, 26 Maltese patients went abroad to get pediatric cardiac surgery, 46 were treated for hematological reasons, 18 for neurosurgery, 36 for ophthalmological reasons, and 22 went abroad for oncology. The German-French border region is one of the most active within Europe. Approximately 40,000 persons cross the border between Strasbourg and Kiel every day, for example, taking advantage of shopping cross-border. But when it comes to healthcare, they are much more reluctant. Even if this would allow them to make some savings, have access to diagnosis or therapies they may not find at home, or a better treatment. Based on the patient's experiences, by meetings with doctors and hospitals, inquiries sent to the social securities, three main reasons have been identified as responsible of the only moderate effect at the German-French border of the directive on cross-border care. The first one is the legal complexity and lack of transparency. Indeed, the directive on cross-border care allows every patient to seek ambulatory health care without prior authorization from the social security system. The patient will be reimbursed according to the rates of the country where he gets treatments. In conformity with Article 8, every member state has its own list of exceptions about which prior authorization is necessary. So in a burden region, the exceptions may differ, as which services are provided with an overnight stay and which are not. Every member state should make available to the public the list of exceptions and all relevant information concerning prior authorization. The second reason is the need of patients of enhanced information and real guidance. The national contact points work very differently in member states. Some give only very limited information. Some have extensive websites, others don't. Some can be reached by phone, others not. Some have quite long response time, etc. In any case, a vulgarization of the very technical information is desperately needed. A simple language should be used. If we want to make the directive work, appropriate information has to be given to both citizens and doctors, hospitals, and security services alike. The third point concerned the restrictive interpretation of prior authorization from social security services. The directive on cross-border care coexists with the Regulation 8083 of 2004 on emergency care. In some cases, happened that prior authorization has been required even in cases of extreme urgency. And this even though the Regulation 883 foresees that in case of emergency, both for ambulatory and hospital care, no prior authorization is necessary. As the directive on cross-border care states in Article 8.1, prior authorization should be only restricted if necessary and proportionate. Currently, in many border regions, it seems that prior authorization is used to control the patient flow, even if a service cannot be adequately provided or provided at all. Moreover, there is still a problem in the recognition of the European health insurance card. As said by Mr. Rutherford, the report on the state of play of the Cross-Border Care Directive published by the European Commission last September clearly shows that the European citizens' awareness about their right to seek health care in another European country remains low. Indeed, less than 20% of European citizens feel they are informed about their cross-border care rights. And only the 10% of European citizens are aware of the national contact points. So consider all of above. Civic and Patients Association expressed some concerns related to both the transposition of the Cross-Border Care Directive and its practical impact. Indeed, the implementation process at national level is still slow. The involvement of citizen patient organizations should be a priority. Information to patients on their rights under the directive is currently lacking. Patients should not anticipate the cost of treatments abroad. The provisions of the directive may be influenced or hindered by cultural differences. The language is one of the main obstacles in reading and understanding medical prescription and information, and cooperation with foreign national contact points is still largely lacking. So, together with our partners associations, ACN strongly believes that the innovative potential expressed by the directive is strong. For this reason, we are deeply committed to work for its implementation. So, besides our concerns on the matter, we would like to share also some proposals and recommendations on the topic. The first one is build a network of all the national contact points in order to have a proper dialogue with the stakeholders identified by the directive, including patients' associations. National contact points should hold annual meetings with patient organizations at national level to assess the situation. Develop guidelines together with the European Commission and patient association to better inform citizens. Realize an information campaign with the support of the Civic and Patient Association. And I take this occasion to inform you that a communication campaign will be carried out by ACN in partnership with several patient organizations in 14 countries in 2016 and the other 14 countries in 2017. It will be officially launched on the next May 3rd with an event inside the European Parliament, and all the information will be available soon. Among all the activities, a leaflet in the specific country language and in English will be drafted with information on the rights that patients have abroad. There will be also, for each country, the contact details of a patient healthcare users organization who can help patients to make use of these rights in practice, and of the local national contact point. So going ahead, keep monitoring the situation and collect data at European level with the direct involvement of both civic and patient associations. Collaborate with the G-Santé to keep updated the app European Health and Insurance Card in order to enter the information contained in the directive, the details about the national contact points, etc. Collect in each member state evidences on inequalities in access to health care and how they affect patients, as well as on good practices to share. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your attention and support to our activities. Despite some horrible news from our European borders, barriers are falling in Europe. Telephone roaming will no longer be hampering the movement of citizens. Low-cost flights make traveling as easy as taking a bus to other side of your own cities. Studying abroad is consolidated reality. Cross-border health treatment is the missing piece of the puzzle to make Europe a true common house for everybody. Thanks.
Thank you, Dottoressa Ferraiolo. The next is Magdalena Rutkowska. Poland, AUMT. The title is a new EU medical travel certification tool. Please.
Thank you. Thank you very much for invitation. It's very, very important for me, and very good actually time also to share my ideas with you here in the European Parliament. Thank you to Vincenzo. And I spent in this medical tourism business 5 years now. I'm the facilitator. I take over like 1,000 patients to Poland for the different medical procedure. I promote also Poland as a medical tourist destination for the last 3 years for the Ministry of Economy. And observing the industry, I just came up with the all ideas which was shown in the Vincenzo presentation. So after this 5 years of observing all of the associations, all of the sector, industry, medical tourism part, it is really the urgent need to come up with the very good European come together and cross-border network. So in this matter, from few months, I'm starting the cooperation with some partners in UK and in France, just to come up with our European Medical Tourism Association, or how Vincenzo is also suggesting, Medical Travel Association. It is still under development, but the main point is not to have American ones like Medical Tourism Association, which is really commercial focus association, which is going through across the globe and educating and certificating by their own guides from states. It is really huge urgent to have such a European tool, because we have all the ideas here, all the knowledge here, and we are, as a specific European countries, we have a very, very good and tradition and quality even better than in States. So the main goal is that it is non-profit organization, and our goals is really to share and show how Europe is good, to promote the high quality of healthcare service in Europe, to raise the awareness of modern medical technologies, to promote possibility of cross-border healthcare, which is very good at my colleague present now. It is only less than 20% people know anything about it, and it is very, very less in terms of usage. Provide patient with the information, with the best practice in the medical field, promote telemedicine, to educate medical tourist providers, facilitators, clusters, to present patient the best medical tourist providers of the certification program. And the aim of it is very, very simple tool. It cannot be very complicated. So the basic focus is to really give the, for example, for the providers, 10 simple questions for self-awareness. Are you ready for medical tourists to be in this sector, okay? And it is simply 10 questions. After my facilitation experience, you need to have the basis for the medical travel. Not every hospital is good, and not every, let's say, clinic is good. It is some basic stuff you need to have, like international multi-language stuff. You can be able to translate the documentation. You need to provide the middle level of the staff, also speaking in the different languages. So it is some basic points you need to have, despite of the quality of medical procedure. Patient thinking everything is at the same level, but this specific quality you need to have in this medical travel business. So after simply 10 questions, after having this simply having tool, the hospital or clinic can aware, okay, I'm 80% okay. So if from these 10 questions he will answer 8 questions yes, he will be able to step further. He will give us the email address and contacts data and so on. Then he will be sent a tool of certification. I develop something like 40 questions, detail one, based like the different certification organization doing. So it is very detailed questions, and it will be reviewed by the team after the answering from the management board of the clinic of the hospital. It will be the website review, patient interview, and the staff interview. So on the 3 levels, we will be checking it if it is okay. If he will pass this 40 question, also like 80% will be fine. He will be eligible for the certification. And in this certification tool, I can share also everything which is developed. It is also the questions regarding language, translator, agreement. If, for example, agreement for the patient is prepared in a different language. If the transparent prices are provided, if the hospital or clinic is aware about cross-border directive, if he can guide the patient how to fulfill the documentation, how to move in the system and the process with these contact points, with how to be back to his own country and having back, for example, money for the procedure. So in these 40 questions, we are checking such a stuff. And then he will be eligible for being on the site, which is, if you can go for the members, it will be, for example, divided by countries and by the procedure. So depending from country you are, you can choose the country or you can choose the procedures, and all the available hospitals and clinics in each country will appear. So of course, it could be really commercial, like MTA, but it could also, this whole project could be non-commercial and non-profit if we come up together with, sit down together and, for example, can use this tool and having some support from EU just to develop really non-profit, very good association. And it will be a lot of information, of course, about cross-border healthcare. It is a very simple tool now how the patient can go through this directive, because directive is very complicated. So we put it together in 10 points how to move in the system. They can find here contact points. And for the patient is also some very good guidelines how to become the medical tourists, what you need to know. Check yourself. Also, it will be simple 10-question check. If you are really eligible for traveling abroad, think it twice when you will move your country. So with this tool and with this certification idea, we are ready to share all of this. We can sit down and we can look all together on the certification questions we prepared. It is already done. We have like 40 questions with detailed information for clinics and for hospitals to be on the website. And simply, I'm really appreciate that I'm here and we are just on this path to move on together, and I'm very happy to share my knowledge after 5 years in this sector. I know every association in the world. I'm the member of Global Healthcare Travel Council, MTA, EMTJ, different kind of organizations in the world who are trying to put together, but no one in Europe yet. We didn't started a very good ground as a network here in Europe. So it is really good time to start it. And Vincenzo, I hope we will move with it, and I'm ready to be a part here together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Kutkowska. Now the next is Mrs. Olga Safonicheva from EMA Medical Travel Task Force. The title is Selection Criteria in Medical Travel Accreditation System. Please.
Dear President, dear colleagues, dear organizing committee, thank you very much for invitation, for possibility to present our ideas concerning medical travel. And our idea to selection criteria depends on different circumstances. Up-to-date travel is phenomenon of 21st century. This sphere is scientifically based industry, complicated policy of global level, dialogue of civilizations and cultures. Travelers select different directions: eco-travel, cultural, sport event, agricultural travel, and so on. But travel for health and beauty becomes the main trend of healthy medical travel. And medical travelers are ready to spend on average 5-10 times more than a regular traveler. And of course, another phenomenon of 21st century is general aging of population. Older people are evolving into medical travel, and it is one of the greatest challenges of our time. We know that there are two basic categories of medical travelers. Free circulation of patients connects with their independent decision to find alternative technology for particular medical procedures. And the state medical travel is linked to public or private health insurance. There are two basic categories of medical facilities for primary and complementary medical travel. For primary medical travel that needs hospitalization for highly specialized treatments, and facilities for these aims are high-level hospitals with intensive therapy, first aid, surgery departments, including qualified personnel and innovative technologies, and rehabilitational centers. The aims of complementary medicine travel is not hospitalization. The healthy patients have motivation to improve their health, their quality of life, and have proper leisure time as well. Facilities for those purposes are rehabilitation centers, maybe sanatoriums, resort, spa, wellness centers. This category of medical travel includes also complementary medicine, ethnic, medical, Ayurvedic and Chinese medicine. Selection criteria of medical travel accreditation system for hospitals, sanatoriums, resorts, spa, wellness centers is the real challenge for up-to-date situation. And selection criteria in medical travel accreditation system is the new task for all partners to work in synergy. Without what it isn't impossible to provide any medical assistance. What are the criteria? Of course, audience, standards, clinical recommendations, costs for medical aid, complementary services, fees for medical aid, agreements for the provision of health services with the regional health authorities. Criteria in medical travel accreditation system for hospitals, sanatoriums, resorts have to be different, but all of them have to create reference site with general information about, at first, profile of medical facilities, license and accreditations, for example, license for medical activities, for educational activities, pharmaceutical activities, organization structure, direct administration leaders of departments, medical doctors with their CV, list of departments, for example, Department of Diagnostic Technologies, clinical departments, organizational methodical department, Department of Physiotherapy, the list of programs with the complete descriptions and full prices. For example, the list of procedures included into price of basic programs in sanatorium. It has diagnostic, initial medical examination on arrival day, doctor's consultations, a functional method of research, a laboratory diagnostic, and different kind of treatments. Another example, rehabilitation program after myocardial infarction. There is the goal of the program. There are the next one. The next one. The next one. There are benefits of treatment in sanatorium for the patient if he chooses the sanatorium. And the next one, there are the results after treatment, some publications for patients' information. And the next one, indications for treatments. There are the list of indications for patients for duration of treatment, about 21 days. The next one. High qualified staff needs to know the basic strategies to every stage of medical aid and rehabilitation for patient safety. Drug therapy and non-drug therapy. There are 3 stages of medical aid, and medical staff have to be highly qualified for every stage. There are the description of work and coordination to result, the organization model of the work for all chains, scheduler for the staff, forms of planning and control, the study of efficiency, internal audit, and personal plans timetable. Of course, new technologies and new professions need to have certificates for all the activities. And training of personnel to speak in one language as well as they understand in foreign languages. non-medical but high qualified team. And the best way to create the criteria to organize the innovative cluster for development, regulation, cooperation, competitiveness, ability, that include different structures into one team and under one umbrella. Research centers, universities, a network of clinics, centers of rehabilitation, public health organizations, associations, centers for transfer of scientific technologies, competence excellence centers to development strategy and common policy and education and coordination and activities, for informatic and other spheres of prepare market-oriented products, personalized programs, passport of health, and e-medical projects. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The next is Professor Francesco Menta from Italy, Roma, CRM. The title is Medical Care to a Special Population of Travelers, the Seafarers. Please, Professor Menta.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I should to thank the European Parliament and European Medical Association for the kind invitation. My presentation is centered on a sort of obliged particular medical care, the medical care delivered to a population of workers moving quite often like seafarers, and they really present several relevant problems in delivering and in obtaining good quality medical assistance. This slide shows you the two organizations I'm representing. The first one, which is more related with the topic of my presentation, is Centro Internazionale Radiomedico, which in English, International Radiomedical Center. It is an organization established in 1935. You have to consider that my first predecessor, I'm at the moment the president of this organization, was Mr. Guglielmo Marconi, who had the idea of using radio, his invention, for providing medical care to a prototype of isolated people being in the middle of sea on board of a ship. At that time was, of course, the activity was delivered by radio. Now we have satellites, telecommunication systems, and so several facilities. The other, no, if you could come back, please. The other part is my university, is Camerino University. And the gentleman you see in the center, fortunately, is not Mr. Bin Laden. When he was alive, when I showed this life, some people was a little bit upset about it. He is Bartolomeus Eustachy, was my first predecessor. He was established in 1543, and my university did create for him the same chair I occupy at the moment. And Camerino University has a particularity. It is the smallest town in Europe to have a university. We have just 7,500 inhabitants and 10,000 students. So all the town is a campus. Going to the next presentation, we see that, of course, we did hear about the definition of what is medical travel. It has been deepened, this concept discussed today. But really, besides to people traveling for getting higher quality care, and to people traveling for being better treated, we can say. There are other people, primarily seafarers, as well as the crew of airlines, that really they travel not, they should travel, is their work. And if they have a medical problem, which happens really quite often, they should address the resolution of their medical problem to the first port or airport where they go and they land. And but let's to move to the problem of seafarers. We have to consider that the largest majority of merchant ships don't have any doctor or adequately trained paramedic personnel. Merchant ships can be at sea for days or weeks before they reach a port. And really, for centuries, the medical care of these people was really very critical. It was left to the experience of the captain with the medical knowledge that he learned thanks a book or in some medical courses. So, unfortunately, the level of medical assistance in these conditions was extremely poor, and it is still a challenge for medicine to provide adequate level medical care of seafarers. A regulated system for providing assistance to people on board of seagoing vessels started on 18 November 1920, when a charity Christian organization, the Seaman Church of New York, did obtain from the state of New York a license for providing a radiomedical assistance to seafarers. From that time, of course, several countries did develop their own radiomedical, and the regulations, one important regulation, a milestone, a pillar in this area, was a ILO 106 convention issued in 1958. It required this convention that all maritime countries should provide to their our flagships a radiomedical service free of charge, with no distinctions you can read made between nationality of patients using radiomedical services. Europe did provide a council directive on March 31st, 1992, and concerning the minimum standards for providing medical care. Unfortunately, we have no newer European Union recommendations or regulations in this topic, and probably it is urgent that Europe moves also to regulate better this area. At an international level, International Maritime Organization, the United Nations organizations dealing with the sea problems, it published in 2000 a circular, Medical Assistance at Sea. The circular is really big progress, and it introduced the concept of telemedicine for providing medical care to people on board ships, and introduced also the concept of some specialized structures for providing medical care to seafarers, the Telemedical Maritime Assistance Service. So maritime telemedicine is going to develop, and in this respect, thanks to maritime telemedicine, we can have several important new possibilities. As we can see, we have now at the moment satellites, and thanks with satellites, we can even see the patients on board the ships. We can transmit several medical information, really like us, one in front of the other. In spite of the distance, we can provide decent, good level medical assistance to these people. You can see in this slide the three examples. One in 1938 was the transmission of an electrocardiogram using radiotelegraphy. Was something incredibly revolutionary at the moment. Of course, I don't think that there are probably several physicians in this room, but I don't think nobody will be able to understand exactly this kind of old-style electrocardiogram. But as you can see, dermatological lesions, even trauma, it is so easy to take using a smartphone a picture and then to send to the doctor, who will be able, in spite of the poor medical knowledge from the ship side, to really do diagnosis and to recommend the treatment. Really, who, in case of injuries or illnesses at sea, who cares? A medical officer is in charge of the patient. On land, several mass doctors are available to give advice, but the doctor will need the best possible information from the ship concerning the patient, the best collaboration on the ship side. I recommend, when I have contacts with the ship captains, I say from time to time they don't understand why I ask so many questions and so on, but I say, you are my hands, my eyes, my ears. So it is important to establish this collaboration. Another problem quite important is the medical history of the patient, and of course to have on board, as you can see, this is a telemedicine corner we did establish on board of a container of several container ships from CMA ships, a telemedicine corner able to transmit biomedical data. But what we need still are medical information. You can see the transmission of medical data, but it is very important. Look, in my pocket, I have my passport, and I have also this, which is on the slides. It is a prototype. The next one. It is a prototype, is what we propose, a health passport that each seafarer, like the vaccination passport, should bring with him. And in this respect, believe me, any doctor, any hospital will be able to see the medical history of this person in spite of language barrier, other problems, with probably, we believe, an incredible progress in this. We hope that to have new regulations from European Union. The gentleman with the white coat, I'm concluding, next one, yes, the last one. No, the last one, yes. He was one predecessor delivering medical care in 1935. I would like very much, I can see patients, I can obtain medical information, biomedical data, but we need urgently regulations from authorities to oblige to have these high standards allowed by technology in supporting medical assistance to seafarers. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Amenta. The next is Mrs. Eva Kivel, from Vice Secretary General, European Space Association. Please.
Good afternoon or good midday, everyone. On behalf of the European Space Association, I would like, first of all, to thank the supporting members of the European Parliament and the European Medical Association for organizing this event and giving us the opportunity to also say some words about our sector. ESPA is the European Umbrella Association of National Spa and Health Resort Associations, which represent the interests Europe-wide. Our focus is to be in action for the recognition of local natural remedies, the enhancement of the awareness of spas and health resorts as qualified prevention and rehabilitation centers, also the competence and health tourism offers. Also the importance of the quality in terms of facilities, services and education. We are especially glad to see that the spa services have been mentioned several times here today. And in this context, I would like to shortly differentiate the offers of spas from an ESPA point of view to wellness centers. Balneotherapy care in spas and health resorts has the focus of prevention and rehabilitation, as I already mentioned, and it's linked always to the treatment with local natural healing resources like water, gases, pilloids. Our related facilities are spa clinics and spa hotels, which have high quality standards. And the position of balneotherapy in healthcare systems is different in many member states, but in most of them it's reimbursed partially or entirely. And in this context, ESPA has prepared a brochure for cross-border healthcare national contact points, where interested patients can see in which country it is reimbursed and to which extent, and some information where to contact and find further information. Balneotherapy as a part of the healthcare system is provided only in spa facilities with medical background, and each spa facility has a specific therapeutic focus based on the local healing resources. And to be covered by the health care system, it's necessary to have three different kind of conditions. For example, the recovery after acute medical conditions, then management of chronic diseases, the prevention of common occurring diseases, and to emphasize that the medical services of spa and health resorts are important for the healthcare systems. We are implementing an e-library which shall raise awareness of this issue and is collecting the scientific research for local natural healing resources and everything related to this area. Also, we want to emphasize the quality in our facilities, and therefore we are active for quality in health prevention, and we are now establishing a new platform in an association kind of way, where quality standards in the area of prevention are the topic, and we have also for a basis of this international quality certification, which is called Europe Spa Med for medical facilities and also for different spas. So that's just in brief a little bit about our activities, and I want to thank you and have a good day.
Thank you very much. We are on time. The next is Dr. Gianluca Davascio, CEO Health and Wellness. The title is What Future for Supplementary Health Funds? Please, Dr. Davascio.
Bene, buongiorno a tutti. Volevo innanzitutto...
Thank you very much. I just wanted to thank Vincenzo Costaiola and for this opportunity. What is the future for supplementary health funds? These health funds can be very important, and I'd like to discuss them today. There are systems with the national health system, which we need to start with a general macroeconomic comment, and because we need to talk about real facts. The truth is, then we all are aware of this, both in Italy and for European countries, that the average life expectancy is going up. It's now average life expectancy is already over 85 in Italy, and so as a result we also have, linked to this, we also have a drop in the birth rate. Here you can see the reduction we had a minimum number of births in 2015 since the start of records, and the third element is the fact that the percentage of elderly people in society is constantly increasing. In 2030, we're no longer talking about the distant future, but quite soon, over 50% of people will be aged over 50. So these are people who are going to start developing health problems as well. Next element is the number of people who are not self-sufficient. A statistical fact which is quite concerning shows how today the state is not always able to be present when needed. For every 1,000 people who need help, only 24 receive it by the national health system. We also, even in countries such as Iceland, Norway and others, they actually reach 4 times our levels. Today, if we're already struggling today when we do not have so many elderly people, how in the future the situation is going to get even worse. We need people to come and help, perhaps from abroad or people in the family. Today, the number of people in the family is going down, and so actually there aren't that many people available to help the elderly. And yet, despite the fact that investment is quite high, out-of-pocket costs for Italians, for healthcare costs, that is also amongst the highest overall. In Italy, we have the highest total out-of-pocket expense, and so a large amount of what the public healthcare system offers is not enough, and many private resources are necessary. And so as the people get older, they need more healthcare. Let's look at this more in detail. These are from figures from last year, but 144 billion euros is the total healthcare expenditure. The state spends 111 directly. So they do spend money, but then still 30 billion are still borne by the citizen. How are these costs divided? Some part are spent directly in order to support the healthcare system through paying directly for healthcare. The other 3 billion are split into 2 parts. Some go to the insurance sector. There's people who can afford to buy cover for healthcare do. And the other 2/3 of this go to health funds and mutuals. And this is the reason we're really here today. This represents a population who are more or less directly concerned with healthcare, and this is about 10 billion people in Italy. Of course, the state cannot increase the amount of funds easily. It doesn't only deal with the private sector, because this would not work. So we need to develop systems that could be supplementary to this. We're talking here about supplementary health funds. Already today, they are showing some of their potential. They are a certain alternative, and they need to be a fundamental element, a link between the public system, which can offer basic levels of healthcare, and other areas which the private sector can cover. So these sometimes use the healthcare system structures available, and in a sense they can bring together different users of the healthcare system. Not only So not only in the sense that when I pay for healthcare treatment, I get my money back, but also for putting money towards treatment itself. So it's not so much reimbursing money, which involves lots of direct and indirect costs, but it's also going towards improving efficiency in terms of the services available. So they can offer better services available to more people at much lower costs. In Italy, we're very often criticized, but already in 1992, Italian legislators had expected this situation to arise, and so we were we had a bit of foresight here. Over the years, 3 further laws have been passed to regulate this. And since 2009, nothing new has been done. These health funds have become very popular. There are about over 600 funds now today. What's lacking is regulation, which would be coherent about the needs and expectations for which Italians have, and they will do in the future. Of course, we have very many good, positive examples. These are health funds which have really embraced the spirit of making their members really involved in the process, not only in theory but also in practice. And they also involve improving healthcare systems by offering care at home, giving service in a more simple and easily accessible way. These are cases which can give added value to the patient. Later, my colleague will present to you a specific case, because there are already cases where certain quite large communities are involved in this kind of sector, and they have shown that it is a system that can work. It can give high quality, lasting solutions, and it can be profitable in terms of health. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Davascio. The last relation, Mrs. Martina Guerra, Operative Director of Fondo Assistenza e Benessere, Supplementary Health Funds, an Italian example, please.
Grazie mille, buongiorno a tutti, ringrazio il dottor Castiglioli.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Let me thank Dr. Castiglioli for being here, and also thank all colleagues for being here. As Mr. Davascio was saying, currently we say that we're going to have to provide more resources in healthcare because there's an increase in the average age, for example, and funds are going to have more of a role to play in supporting national health services because of that. So I'm going to talk about the FAB, the Fondo Assistenza e Benessere, and what we're doing on the ground. Now, our fund is called FAB, the Healthcare and Wellness Fund, because we want to provide our clients with services directly. So not to have patients are having to look for where the service is provided, but having it immediately available. And wellness, because we're talking about care at a 360-degree level. So we're trying to promote a healthy life. We are a social health fund, and we base ourselves on various principles, transparency vis-à-vis our clients, and that we provide as many services as possible. We guarantee the people that we work with very good coverage. So coverage, for example, until they're 85 years old, right from birth, essentially, until they pass away. We're a non-profit organization. That doesn't mean that we can't make money, but what that does mean is that any profits that we make from what we do are reinvested so that we can provide further services, perhaps innovative services, which are at the disposal of the people who sign up to us. We're not a commercial body. We aren't necessarily an insurance company. We basically base ourselves on the principle of social subsidiarity. So we can't reject people based on risks. We accept anyone as a member of our fund. There are no barriers to entry. As I was saying, profits can't be distributed. They're reinvested in our members to improve the services they receive. And that's really an advantage over what ordinary businesses can do, because they obviously have to aim to make a profit. Our members are members, they're not actually customers or clients, so what we're trying to do is ensure that we provide them with the services they need. We focus a great deal on health prevention programs and programs that maintain the well-being of our members. We promote sporting activities, for example, and cultural activities to ensure that our members have a sense of well-being, and also to promote well-being among their families. As I was saying previously, all services are provided up to the age of 85. That doesn't, of course, mean we can't go further than that, because we are flexible. So it is possible for us to provide services to people who are older than that. I mean, in particular, we like to ensure that we can obtain a critical mass of people, and so we like to provide services to people regardless of their age all too often. There's no barrier to entry, as I've already said. We help all our members, and we have 5 kinds of services that we provide. So we call them medical and wellness services. So you have the classical reimbursement for health services provided in public or private hospitals or clinics. Then we have prevention, which is something we focus a great deal on. Then we have social assistance, odontology, and integrated services. And here I'm talking about devices that gather health data from our members for the purposes of carrying out studies. So we're trying to work out what people's requirements might be on the ground in people's daily lives so that we can provide the best possible service. We provide social services in the health field. We provide health services in the social field, and we also provide services that integrate the social and health aspects too. I mean, what we're not trying to do is basically just provide financial reimbursements. What we're trying to do is provide effective services to our members and the people we help. We have a governance structure, which you can see on the slide, that enables our fund to be stable. We have risk management systems, we have a legal department, we have an audit department, and our structure really isn't that different from an ordinary fund, in spite of the fact that we're a not-for-profit organisation. So we're also in line with standards that are used by insurance companies. We carried out a study at this business school when it comes to the tax aspects, the fiscal aspects, the management aspects, and so on. And they gave us some input as to how we could structure our fund, and that also they advised us to set up the Scientific Technical Committee. This is a committee that's made up of doctors, academics, technical experts, lawyers, for example, as well, fiscal experts, actuaries, and that really means that we can have input from these experts so that we can provide appropriate services to our members based on what's available on the ground. And these services can also be provided by the Italian National Health Service, but it's good to know about what's available in different regions, because our health service is based on a regional model. we would like to work with the EMA as a partner because they are experts in medical care. We also work with many partners, businesses, local organisations, but most of our members are individual citizens who've signed up, and they're looking for services that the health system can't currently provide and which will probably be reduced progressively in the future. So these are people who are aware that they need to look after their health in a perhaps slightly different way. This slide shows our main partners. As I was saying, we try and integrate our services with the National Health Service, but we also try and provide complementary services. But what we're not trying to do is replace the Italian National Health Service. I mean, we're not we don't want the National Health Service to stop providing services so that we can simply provide them instead. What we're trying to do is create a network across the various regions so that we can provide high quality medical and healthcare services. And we work with various organisations that work with marginalised people and people in difficulties so that we can get involved in setting up a cohesion project, a social cohesion project at the local level. So we're really trying to work together with other partners who are experts in the field, because we want to provide high-level services. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The interpretation is now going to have to leave. Thank you very much.
For the conclusion.
I think we have no more time because normally we have to respect the time. We have only 15 minutes late. Is accepted. If it's some just few but very quick questions before we conclude.
Okay.
10 seconds.
10 seconds from German.
We should stress this to attract patients for cross-border health, but not only within Europe, but also from externally, to stress European identity and values.
Absolutely. I think the Europe is okay, is the base, but our goal is the world. No problem at all. Thank you very much. No, it's one question.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Costigliola. A very quick question to Dr. Amenta. I represent the cruise industry at European level. And as you know, the cruise ships are a bit special compared to cargo ships. So I wonder if he could very, very quickly elaborate on this proposal for health, a passport or whatever. As an industry, we have always advocated for a global solution in light of the fact that most of the operators are not simply European as far as my industry is concerned, but we are global per definition. So in order to provide a level playing field at the world level, both the industry and policymakers at European level has always supported global solutions. So at the IMO, ILO level, as you referred to before. Anyway, I would be happy to elaborate and to discuss on this after the meeting. Thank you.
Of course, it's a global world, is the sea, and I will be more than pleased to discuss and to collaborate. It's a dream. I hope that we have to wait so much to have at least a health passport for each seafarer, and perhaps for many trans-border travelers.
Okay. Other question?